Good afternoon. For those of you watching here or maybe watching later on KSRA's YouTube channel, thanks for joining us. And today we have a special guest concerning the constitutional amendment to hunt, fish, and trap. And we wanted to, as we come, the legislative session has ended. They still have to go through sine die still, but for the most part it's ended. And we wanted to just wrap things up with just a little clarifications section on the constitutional amendment to hunt, fish, and trap. And today we have with us the Chief Counsel for the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism, Chris Tymeson, and he was instrumental in that process. Of course, the bill was written, and I'll let him talk about this a little bit more, by Adam Lusk, Representative Adam Lusk, and former Representative Travis Couture-Lovelady, too. So, but they were all working together for the common goal. Chris, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us again who you are, what you do, and then how you got involved in the process of this piece of legislation.
Sure. Thanks, Lyle. I am Chris Tymeson. I'm the Chief Attorney for the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. I've been with the agency about 16 years, a little over 16 years, and started here in January of 2000, and this has been an issue that I've been following since January of 2000.
Now, how did you guys work together then?
So this issue's come up before a couple of times and never gone anywhere, and now is the right time to really push forward and do something about this issue. Representative Lusker and Representative Couture-Lovelady came to me at the beginning of last session, and we worked on a draft, some language. They had some language they wanted to propose, and I had a few small tweaks so we could come together and put forth a constitutional amendment.
Now, for some folks, I think there's some confusion, and although it passed, through the legislature, of course, it only had to pass the House and the Senate, did not have to go to the governor because it's a constitutional amendment that will now go to the people on the ballot in November. And I think folks get that. But some of the clarifications and confusion that folks have been expressing to us are, well, if it's a right, you're going to establish a right to hunt, fish, and trap, then why should I even have to buy a license?
Right. So the history of hunting and fishing is that in the North American model of conservation, hunters and anglers have always paved the way for restoration of those species. In the 1930s, many of those species that we hunt today were virtually extinct in Kansas and across the United States. And that's not going to change. Hunters and anglers still pay the way for conservation. The way that the constitutional amendment is drafted is that it's a right to hunt, fish, and trap subject to reasonable regulation. And reasonable regulation is paying the way for conservation.
There you go. And folks don't realize that so many times. You yourself you're a game warden, and others across, I have good friends. In fact, Rick Campbell, who is our game warden here in the area, has been for years and years and years. I say a good friend. He's a friend of mine, we'll put it that way. We've had a great relationship with him. But people don't realize who pays the bill and who pays their the salaries and then the habitat efforts that go on through the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism, and all that goes on. That actually comes from us in paying that license fee. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are two forms of revenue, really. It's when you buy a gun or ammunition, there's an excise tax at the federal level, and that goes to the government, the federal government. And based on the number of licensed buyers you have in a state, you get a portion back, some of those funds. So there's monies that come in that way, and they're restricted, and that's what we use for habitat work and managing our properties. And then there's license dollars that we use to match those federal dollars. And those license dollars come from individual license buyers. So shooters are contributing to the system as well. They just might not be buying a hunting license.
Okay. So exactly then that stream of revenue that comes from the hunting license and fishing licenses and trapping licenses, where does that go? Where does my money, where does our monies go as far as that goes?
So that goes to all sorts of wildlife restoration projects, all the fish that we stock in lakes, all the habitat that we maintain on properties that we own or that we lease from the federal government. It goes into employee salaries to manage those populations. It goes into my salary, for example, to draft regulations and defend the department. There's a litany of items that funds.
Okay. And now, that's one of the areas, and I think we've done a fine job, and you did a fine job of clarifying that for us. I appreciate it. One of the other areas is, why do we need this? I've had that question come up in our Facebook pages and stuff. Why do we need a constitutional amendment to do this? I mean, I thought, that's just something that already exists or something of that nature. And folks don't understand that there is a battle against hunting, fishing, and trapping by organizations that are even within our state.
Correct. Why do we need this? Do we need it immediately the next 5 years? I don't know the answer to that. I can't predict the future. But I've had 3 good bosses here who have taught me some great things. And my second boss taught me to do things that make a difference 50 years from now for Kansans. And this is something that'll make a difference 50 years from now. I've watched this issue over the last 16 years. And when I was first approached, if you'd have said, do you support it as the agency counsel? I'd have said no. And my concern would have been that it would be used as a shield against the agency, a sword against the agency, to attack the agency. And in fact, the litigation that I've seen is it's been a shield for the agency. And by way of example, the Wisconsin Supreme Court upheld a dove season in 2003, and they used the constitutional right to hunt, fish, and trap to help the department get that dove season. But there are no doubts about it, or I have no qualms in saying hunters' rights are under attack. Hunters, fish, anglers, and trappers are under attack in this country every day. And all you have to do is look at bear bans, trying to use bans on baiting for bears, trapping bans like in Colorado, hunting bans in California on mountain lion. Even mere possession of a mountain lion now is illegal in California. And those are instances that I think that the constitutional right to hunt, fish, and trap can protect those rights. Also, if you look at the funding mechanisms for conservation, it's so important that hunters and anglers buy licenses. We've talked about how they fund conservation, but if those abilities to hunt and fish are curtailed, that means less money for wildlife. And that's the bottom line for us as an agency and as sportsmen, is we want wildlife to flourish. If there's no money for wildlife, who's going to pay for conservation?
Absolutely. This year alone, do you have any numbers on how many poaching cases you guys have handled? Just for whitetail, for instance.
Yeah, I can't give you a number on that. But really? Obviously our our game wardens get called out to a number of poaching incidents every year, but we've got 74 field officers, maybe 85 total that are certified law enforcement officers, and those folks can't be everywhere at every time, so we rely on citizens to turn in those complaints to us.
Right.
But as for raw numbers, I couldn't give that to you right now.
Sure. But that's what, people don't realize what you guys do. And you're a government agency that does us good. As the Kansas State Rifle Association, we're concerned with, of course, Second Amendment issues and the hunting issues and shooting sports and so on and so forth. And our folks sometimes need to hear again and again that there are government agencies out there that help us and help our cause, and we can work together. That's the great part about, you working with Travis and Adam, both representatives, and now Travis has moved on to the NRA, but you guys work together on this issue. It was a bipartisan issue. Representative Lusker was a Democrat. That's correct. And so it's not a issue that's Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or anything like that. it's an issue that was for hunters and trappers, fishermen, and for outdoorsmen, period, and women, for included in that. And so we're really excited that this is going to go on the ballot in November. We really are. So, but I think, have you ran into any pushback or feedback that you guys have received?
I've just gotten a few calls asking what the necessity was, and maybe that was like the largest concern raised in the legislature was the necessity of it. And again, my response to that is 50 years from now, this is going to make a difference in the lives of Kansans.
Yeah.
50 years. I can't guarantee you 5 years, but 50 years, certainly it will make a huge difference.
I have my dog here in here with me. She's creating a row. You have dead animals on your wall, and I have some on mine, but I have a live one here next to me. Anyhow, but no, there's folks that just need to hear from you guys some of those reasonings and clarifications, and I appreciate it, and we appreciate the time.
Sure.
We've had some technical issues as we work towards this interview, but I really do appreciate the time and concise clarification for those issues, and we'll get this out to folks. And that's one of the reasons why we do these videos, is so that the truth gets out there, unabashed, unbiased. The news media is not involved, nothing like that. It's just simply the truth about legislation. So.
I appreciate the opportunity very much. The Kansas State Rifle Association is a great partner for us. As you stated, we have lots of overlapping issues, and as an agency, clearly my focus is on hunting, fishing, trapping, boating, parks, tourism, but Second Amendment rights overlap a lot of that area too. So
yeah,
we're a great partner. I appreciate that,
and we appreciate the partnership that we have. And I've worked with Mike Miller, works out of the Pratt office, of course,
yep.
but on some PR issues. And so we appreciate the partnership likewise. So, but I think that it really wraps it up. I mean, it's not a real hard issue, but there are those little clarifications sometimes people need, and to see the truth, and to see the way forward, and to see that we're preserving that right. For years and generations to come. The act that we're going to be putting together, sort of a campaign, if you will, to see this come, or to see it passed on the ballot in November. And we're doing that because we feel passionate about it for generations to come. And I hope they realize that the decision they make in November when they go to the ballot box on this very issue, this constitutional amendment, will truly affect generations, and not just now. And one thing in that line of thought, how will it be worded on the ballot? Do you know at all?
It is on the website for the legislature, so I could pull it up, but just paraphrasing, it's the constitutional right to hunt, fish, and trap subject to reasonable regulation. And then there are some statements in there that it doesn't affect private property rights or trespass. I think that's generally it.
And they'll have a chance to say yes or no to support it or not to support it.
Correct. So. And it's got to pass by a majority. So I'm hoping that it passes overwhelmingly, like the amendment that was done on the constitutional right to bear arms. Similar. That passed with an 89%.
Right. Record majority.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So, we're looking forward to November in those areas, and our legislative session has been, from our perspective, has been successful. So, and I hope so from you guys too. But we appreciate so much the ability to work with you. So, thanks, Chris, for your time this afternoon. You have lots to do. I know you have piles of stuff that just like everybody else does, and we appreciate your time.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Guys, as you look forward to November, keep this in mind, and in the forefront of your mind as you talk to your friends. Keep these facts in your mind, and also tell them, hey, let's vote for this, okay? And we'll be putting up stuff on our pages all across our social media platforms in favor of the constitutional amendment to hunt, fish, and trap in the state of Kansas. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Hope you guys have a great day. This, of course, is being taped here on Tuesday the 17th, so but of May. But you might watch it later on. So, please keep in mind that we want to preserve that right to hunt, fish, and trap in the state of Kansas. Thanks so much, and have a great day, guys. Talk to you later.